Okay. Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and start, and the reason why I will is I know that we're recording this right now, so I want to welcome you all to this Earth Day event that we have going on. My name is Daryl Larson, and I'm the International Director of Sawyer Products, and we're going to take you on a little bit of a journey during this assembly time, this online assembly. Take you on a journey around the world, introduce you a little bit to Sawyer products, and one of the miracle things that Sawyer creates, a water filter. In many parts of the world, it's known as the miracle filter. It attaches to a bucket. Some people even say it's the miracle bucket, but it truly is. And as we get into Earth Day and we think about our Earth and all the things that are factors in around the world with different kind of environmental kind of things. And certainly what we're going to talk about today is the need for clean drinking water around the world. We'll be happy to take you on this journey. You guys can see back here, I've got a bucket, a clear bucket of dirty water. And that water is representative really of the same kinds of water that people use all around the world to drink out of. They'll go down to a local creek or a river. We're going to take a look at that, what that looks like in this presentation. But waterborne sickness is the #1 killer in the world. And it doesn't have to. There's a lot of sicknesses and things in the world that don't have a cure, but waterborne sickness is not one of those. And so we have an amazing solution that's very inexpensive. And we're putting them in all over the world like crazy. In some countries, the entire country is being covered with clean drinking water right now. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that and introduce you to this filter. But again, I want to welcome you and thank you guys for joining in. I know we have a lot of students out there that are at home and you're doing your studies, many of you online. So it's a privilege for us to be able to come and be kind of in your homes right now as you're in my home. And we're going to talk a little bit about this water filter. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to switch over so I can start sharing my screen with you guys. And we'll just take you right through to the presentation of Earth Day. And so I think everybody can probably see my screen now. I'm going to encourage you guys to open up your chat window. And inside the chat window, you're going to be able to type questions and everything to me along the way. We'll answer some questions at the very end of the presentation. But I want to basically just introduce you to the filter and what we're doing around the world. This water up here that you guys see that's in this bucket, that is the same water that people drink all over the world. There are a billion people, roughly a billion people around the world that drink this kind of water every day. Right out of a river, right out of a creek, right out of an open well, unprotected. And again, waterborne sickness is the #1 killer in the world. So I want to kind of take us on a little bit of a journey to show you guys what a billion people looks like. What does a billion look like? Okay, so here's where your chat window is going to come in. We're going to ask you guys a couple questions. All of this highlighted in blue represents roughly a billion people, okay? It's rounded off a little bit, but it's pretty close to that. Anybody know what this country right up here is? Somebody type it in the chat. What is that? Canada. Canada, eh? Yep, it is Canada. It's right up there at the top. There's a lot of people that live up in there. And then, of course, you got the United States. And then down here, you have a continent. What is that continent? Anyone know what this is down here? It's made up of a bunch of different countries. What is this down here? Somebody type that in. South America. Yes, it's South America. And there's all kinds of different countries down there. That's a billion people. If you took all the people that lived in this area right here, that would make up a billion. Now, we're going to move over to a different part of the country. A part of the world, and that is this continent here that's made up of 54 different countries. 54. Who wants to guess? Everybody knows what this is, right? This is everyone's favorite continent, Africa. That's it, Africa. There's 54 different countries. We're going to take a look at some of those countries in just a couple of minutes to let you know. But that's about a billion people, a little bit more than a billion people, but that gives you an idea of what a billion looks like. Okay, then we travel just a little bit further to the east, and we have this country right here that a billion people live in this country right here. Who knows what this country is? Certainly you guys know. It's the country of, we're going to get an answer. I know it. Okay, I'm going to tell you. Oh, there it is. It popped up. I got to scroll down. India. It is India. So if you take all the people that live here, there's a billion people that live there. There's a billion people that live there. And then tightly squeezed into this country right here is a billion people. Now, I got my clean drinking water journey going in 2008, roughly, maybe a couple years before that, but really dove into the mission around the world to bring clean drinking water to people that didn't have it. And of all things, I went to a country that I didn't really know a lot about, but I had a friend that lived there, and he told me that he grew up in the villages in a country called Fiji. Now, Fiji is in the Pacific Islands. I live right here in the United States, right down in the southwest corner of the United States in San Diego. And if you were to take a flight all the way over to Fiji, there's actually a direct flight. If you go up here, right up here to LA, Los Angeles, and you fly over to Fiji, you're going to kind of fly about halfway to a bunch of islands. You're actually going to kind of come near these islands right here. Anybody know what those islands are? These are the islands in the United States. They're the islands of Hawaii. So you would take a flight. That flight's about, let's say 5.5, 6 hours or something like that. The flight to Fiji actually is 11 hours to get you there. Now, when I first went to Fiji, I didn't know that much about Fiji. And I certainly knew it was islands, but I didn't know how many. Anyone want to guess how many islands are in the Fijian island chain? Let's get some guesses out there and see what you guys think. How many islands do you think make up 500? Somebody guesses 38. Okay, pretty good guesses. 30. We've got 30. Anyone else want to guess? 80, 50. Yeah, lots of guesses out there. I'm going to tell you, there are 322 islands that make up the Fiji island chain. I couldn't believe it. When I went there for the first time, I had no idea. Now, this is the large island right here called Viti, and that's where the capital is located down in this area down here in a place called Suva. And the main tourist area of Fiji, where a lot of people go and they start their journey in Fiji, starts over here on the Nandi side of the island. And then this second biggest island over here is Vanuatu, and there's couple of larger cities there, not super big, but pretty good size. And then all of these little dots spread out. You can't even see some of them, but there's 106 of the islands all spread out throughout the Fiji island chain that are inhabited by people. And what I didn't know when I started going to Fiji was at the time we started going, 50% of the population did not have access to treated water in the country of Fiji. Now they're making some headway. We're making some headway with some filters in the rural areas, but lots of these areas around the outside of the island now have treated water. But when you get right outside of there and you come up into the interior mountainous areas, the rural areas, and all these islands, and many of these little dots on the map, there's no treated water in those places. And so people are getting their water from dirty rivers and all kinds of different places like that. And the water is contaminated with all kinds of different things. Now I want to show you another place that I've been to just recently that has a whole different set of clean water needs going on. That is in the area of the Middle East, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Turkey, those countries, because something really horrible has happened in these past few years. And I want to take you on a little bit of a journey because there's some clean water needs that we're actually helping with over in these countries as well. Now, what's going on is in the country of Syria, there's a terrible war. And you can see this is one of the cities that used to be thriving. There's a mom, her child walking through what's now just rubble everywhere. And because of that war, there's been a tremendous migration of refugees going to all of these other different countries, Lebanon, Jordan. You just saw this flood of people leaving, many of them just for their safety, so that they could go somewhere and be. Many of them took boat rides across the Mediterranean Sea, across different oceans to get to different countries. A lot of the refugees went to Europe, and so they're located in the Europe area, but these were very dangerous situations that were happening with the people that were living in the country of Syria, and they were fleeing to try to find somewhere safe to live. And as they were doing that, they ran into some really big needs. I was in the country of Lebanon not too long ago, and in Lebanon, this is a picture you see on the screen of one of the refugee camps that's actually in Lebanon. And the refugee camps are constructed of kind of these tarp-like not tents, but it's sort of a tent city, if you will. And they're made out of wood, kind of a plywood, wood framing and everything. And then they wrap that wood framing with just tarps. And so this was a little village, kind of a area where some refugees had settled. You see some of the kids that are living there, but that's what their homes look like. And there's really nothing on the inside. They fled with whatever they had on their backs, and they landed in these places. And one of the very most important things that people need is clean water in the midst of that. So that's a really big deal in these places. Now, this is me taking a picture with some of the Syrian refugee kids that were there. They were so wonderful. You know what? They're just like our kids. The families that live there are the same, really, in many ways, as the families that live where we live. All around the world, people are the same. Kids like to play, they like to hang out, and they like to do fun things, and they're super creative, and it's really fun. So when I went there, I saw this tremendous clean water need that existed in the refugee camps. Some of you guys are studying refugees in some of your studies right now. I know many of the fifth graders in some of the schools in San Diego that you guys are covering that. And so that's a big need around the world. So we've seen Fiji, we've seen some of the refugee crisis that are around, but I also travel a lot to the continent of Africa, and there's several countries that I recently visited. One was Togo right here. Togo has a border-to-border clean drinking water intervention going on where the goal is in the next 4 years that everybody in the country of Togo has clean water. I was over in Uganda. I've been to lots of these different countries, Malawi, Cameroon, Tanzania, all kinds of different places. One of the big projects that we have going on at Sawyer Products is working with an organization over there that is bringing clean drinking water border to border to the whole country of Liberia by December of this year. Now that effort's been going on for a long time, but we actually have 130,000 Sawyer filters. The filter that I'm going to show you in just a couple minutes, 130,000 of those are going in the middle of the jungle, and the jungle is crazy. I've walked through on these journeys through the jungle areas in the middle of nowhere. You'll drive as far as you can drive. You'll cross rivers. You'll hike for hours to get back to a little tiny village that is drinking out of a river somewhere, and their kids and their families are really sick from diarrhea sickness. And so by this year, the entire country is going to have clean drinking water. So awesome. And we have 4 different countries right now that are doing border-to-border clean water. Liberia, Togo, the Gambia, Africa, and the Marshall Islands, as well as Fiji, are all on border-to-border initiatives. And so we're going to see some countries in these next years all have clean drinking water for the first time, which is going to be amazing. Now I want to show you how clean water can turn into contaminated water. You know, this is a picture of a river, and this river flows, through villages. And when the river starts out, many times it could have maybe be a little bit more pure when it starts out maybe at a high place, but it becomes contaminated. And so you have a picture right up here of a factory, and a factory can oftentimes put things in the water. And you see these little guys right here, they're all the little germs, all the bacteria, and they're nasty. They cause all kinds of sickness, right? So you're gonna get some bacteria that way. And then you make your way down the river a little bit, and you have an animal right here who's going to the bathroom inside of the river. And so that can cause all kinds of problems. There's a bacteria called E. coli that is in actually the feces when animals or whatever go to the bathroom. And if that if we ingest that, if we eat that or drink that, that will make us very sick. That's one of the big killers around the world is that bacteria. And so you make your way down the river a little bit more, and then you actually have human beings that live near the river that are going to the bathroom, sometimes in the river, sometimes near the river. The rains come, it washes all of that stuff in the river. And so you have all kinds of bacteria problems. Then you have kids that are playing in the water, and oftentimes that can be problematic because sometimes when kids or adults get in the water and they have a cut, there is this really nasty bacteria called leptospirosis that can get inside your skin that way, and that can be super problematic. But there's germs all over. And then you have, people doing their normal chores. You have people that are washing their clothes in the same water that the animals are going to the bathroom in, the same water that people are playing in, they're washing their clothes in, and that is all the ways that water can become contaminated. And so what happens is you'll have a little girl right here. This happens in many villages around the world. People have to travel great distances to go get their water because there's not a water source right where they live. And so just to go access any water, we have to have water to drink. We can't make it if we don't have clean drinking water, and you can only go a couple days without having water. So you have to drink. You and I have to. We're very fortunate where we live in many parts of the world where you can turn on a tap and get water and you can drink that. A large percentage of the world cannot do that thing. And so they go down to the river, they bring a bucket down to the river, a creek or a well or some place like that, and they draw water up and then they drink it. And as they drink that water, all of those bacteria that are in there, all those nasty things are a part of what people are drinking on an amazing, they're drinking the water and they're getting sick, just on a super high level, right? And the very first thing is that you'll oftentimes get a runny stomach. You could have diarrhea. Different countries call that something different, but we would call that diarrhea here. And that is where your body fluids are just leaving you. And it's super uncomfortable. It's very dangerous if you don't treat it. And what can happen is you can go from there, you can get sick. And in some cases, there's bacteria like cholera. I don't know if you guys have heard about cholera outbreaks around the world. Cholera outbreaks, it's a bacteria that you ingest, and then within a very short amount of time, you lose all of your body fluids, actually rather violently. It's really a disturbing kind of a disease. I was in the country of Haiti with one of our clean water partners, and one of the cholera doctors was telling us the story of a family that in the morning, the dad went to work and they had no symptoms of cholera at all. So leave in the morning, go to work. They start having the symptoms, all the sickness, and they lived 3 hours away from the nearest medical clinic. And so they had to begin to make their way there. And within 3 hours, they lost all of their body fluids, and that person did not make it. And it was so sad to hear those stories. And I don't know if you guys know this, but the cure for cholera is clean water. We went to the hospital where the doctor was working, and when cholera patients come in, they lay them on this bed, and then they start to give them IVs, fluids in their veins. They start to give them fluids that is basically clean water. And very rarely do they give them any medication. Maybe one pill of a antibacterial kind of a thing, but for the most part, they just give them clean water. And so that disease totally disappears when somebody gets clean water and when they get, especially one of these Sawyer filters. And so we're going to look at that in a couple minutes, but you guys can see it, that this is why this is the #1 killer in the world, because we have to drink water. And for many people around the world, dirty water is the only water that they have available. Now, people get their water from all kinds of different sources, like I was telling you before. I'm going to show you some pictures, and you guys can type in the chat. Anybody know what this is? What is this right here? Type in the chat. Anybody know what that is? It's a well, yes, it's a well. This is actually a well, the very first Sawyer filter that went into the country of Fiji. It's this well right here. The family was living out on a farmland, and we had gone to visit them, and they take this bucket, they drop it down in this well. Now, in that well, there's all kinds of nasty stuff, right? There's birds that go to the bathroom in there. There's bugs in there. There's frogs in there. There's all kinds of mosquito larvae, all kinds of stuff that can go inside of here, dirt, bacteria, everything. And that's the water source. They drop that bucket down and they draw that water up, and that's what they would drink. Now, this family got their filter in 2008, and that family still has their filter, and they're still drinking clean water all the time with it. And it's amazing. I go back and I visit this family almost every time I go to Fiji. They're super good friends of ours, really great guy. And his family is thriving because they got a water filter, but that's a well, and that's what that well looks like, okay? So then you have, right down here, you have a picture of a woman who's actually washing her clothes right in the little creek where they get their clean drinking, where they get their water from, not clean drinking water. They get their water from this creek right here. Then you have the animals that I was telling you about. This is another creek, little river. It's really close to where that lady was just sitting. And those animals are going to the bathroom right inside that water. Then you have the rivers that the kids are playing in, all kinds of different places that this happens everywhere. And so all those bacteria are coming in. This is somebody's water source right here. This is the water. It looks like almost like chocolate milk. Well, it looks a lot like the water that's in the back, right back there. That's what they would drink. Now here's a picture of a woman in Fiji. Now she has a little bottle of water, like you know, the kind that we would buy at the store, right? A little plastic bottle of water. And she's dipping water into the creek. That's where she gets her water from. And that would be the water that she would drink. Now, last year, I went on a really super cool trip down to the Amazon River. Now, the Amazon River has all kinds of cool things in it. Now, there's piranha, you know, the crazy fish that everyone's afraid of. There's all these big python snakes and everything that are in the middle of the Amazon. And then there's really cool pink dolphins. I got to see pink dolphins in the Amazon River. This village is actually located on the bank of the Amazon River. Now, right behind these houses that you see right here is the Amazon River is like a big valley, really. And it goes down about 40 or 50 feet down below these houses. And in the dry season, the water's really low down in the middle of that valley. Now, this is rainy season when I was there, so the water has swelled up about 40, almost 50 feet, and it hasn't quite peaked yet, but you can see that in this village, people have to use canoes to get around the village, to get from place to place. That's how they do it. And you can see the water line in these houses. This is the water that the families drink. They drink the water right out of the Amazon River. And this water line, you can see it right up there. When the Amazon swells all the way up, these guys actually have to have temporary floors inside their house that are like planks. And so as the water rises in their homes, they take the temporary floor out and they just keep raising the floor up. And they raise the floor up all the way until the water's really up here. And then then that's the only space that they have to live in is up on the top. And that's how they have to make it in this village. And so all of the villages along the Amazon River like this are all built up on stilts. It's just the craziest thing, but they drink that water. Now here's a picture of a friend of mine that I met in Liberia, Africa, and he wanted to take me down to the creek where he got his water from. This is the creek. He has to walk a little bit of distance from his house, and he was literally taking water out of the creek and lapping it up, with cupping it in his hands and lapping it up. Now, one crazy thing, right after he did that, he walked out away from this little creek, and he pulled out of his pocket this little packet of little green pills, and those were his anti-diarrhea medicine that he has to carry everywhere, because every time he drinks that water, he gets sick. And so, and he actually could afford some of those pills. A lot of people can't afford that. And so you drink that water, that's your only water. You have to drink something. And so you drink it, and then you get sick. And so many people, thousands of children die every day from waterborne sickness around the world. Now, this is a Fijian family that we had just given a clean drinking water filter to. This is one of our friends in one of the African countries that we were with, and she's actually cleaning the filter that I'm going to show you in just a couple of minutes. So she's there. And this is an entire little tiny African village, the country of Liberia, and they just got clean drinking water filters in all of their homes, and they were so excited. You can see in this picture the dirty water that they drink. That's their source water. That's the only water they have. And for the first time in their lives, they got clean drinking water, every single home, and those guys are thriving. And it's just awesome. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about this filter because it is amazing. And like I told you, some of you earlier, I think before we started the broadcast, that this filter around the world is now starting to be called the miracle filter. And it is a miracle filter. In some places, they call it the miracle bucket because we always attach it to a bucket, right? Now, this filter removes, you can see 99.9999% of all bacteria. Basically, it takes all the bacteria out of any freshwater source, and it's all the bad stuff, the E. coli, the stuff that comes from animal feces, cholera, typhoid, all of those things that make people sick all around the world. This filter removes all of that. Now, a lot of people ask, well, how does that work? I want to show you. This is the filter I'm going to show you in just a minute. It's got a little cartridge on the inside of it. I have one up here on this bucket, and we're going to filter some water in just a minute. But this filter actually has a little hollow fiber membrane on the inside of it. Okay, that's kind of a fancy term, right? Hollow fiber membranes are used for all kinds of different things around the world to remove bacteria and microscopic particles. Our filter has one of those in it. And I like to think of it a little bit like a microscopic net. Now, some of you guys have been fishing. Does anybody, if you like to go fishing, you type it in the chat. Any fishermen out there? Who's been fishing before? You like to do that? If you've gone fishing before, you might have used a net. Now that net actually, so we have a couple of fishermen people out there. Yeah, we like fishing. Some of you guys love to fish, right? So you get the net, and when you go to scoop up a fish, the fish stays inside the net, but the water passes through the net, right? Well, this little membrane that's in the inside of this cartridge, of this water filter, has little holes in it. We call them micropores. The holes are so small that no bacteria can pass through it. So this filter traps all the bacteria, all the dirt and everything. And somebody asked a question before that if you use this filter, do you have to boil the water? You don't. You don't have to boil the water. So for many of these families that have received filters like this has had a great economic impact. I want to tell you just for a second of some studies that we've done around the world on large scale with some universities. And in the country of Liberia, we will have put by this year 130,000 of these filters in the rural bush communities. Now, we track all kinds of things with data. That's one of the ways that we know we're making a difference in the world. So we give surveys to families before they get a filter, and then we follow up with them. And our nonprofits are doing all this work. And we track how much diarrhea was reduced. We track purchased water savings. So they used to have to buy water. Now they don't have to buy it anymore. They used to have to spend money on medical costs. Now they don't have to spend money on medical costs anymore. Adults used to miss work certain days of the month. Now they don't have to miss work, so they don't have to miss those paychecks that come in as a result of that. And then kids used to miss school. Now they can go to school more days instead of missing school. So between all of that, we've tracked very detailed the results of that. In the country of Liberia, we've been able to reduce diarrhea rates. 36% of all the families that had that were living had chronic diarrhea before they received their water filter. And just 2 weeks after they got that filter, the number dropped down to just 2.9%. of the families having diarrhea. And then at the 8-week mark, it dropped down to 1.5. That's a 95%, right around there, reduction in diarrhea, which is crazy. Virtually eliminating diarrhea from this country with these water filters. And we're doing that all around the world. In the country of Fiji, between work days that the adults used to miss work, they get that salary back, purchased water savings and medical savings, we actually can put $52.96 per month back into the pocket of each Fijian family that receives one of these filters, which is amazing. That's, in many cases, that's about 1/8 of their salary. And so for something as simple as this little filter, that really doesn't cost that much. You can get these filters for really cheap. You can find them. Nonprofits get these at a really good rate. That's one of the things that makes Sawyer such a cool company is, you know, you can buy these filters in different places like Amazon, REI, Bass Pro Shops, Cabela's, all those kind of different places. You can buy those and lots of places around the world and in a retail environment. But for nonprofits, Sawyer makes these really inexpensive so that those nonprofits can do the great work of changing the world. And that's really what kind of a company Sawyer is. Sawyer is a company that is so dedicated to changing the world because we have a great technology. So I am gonna get down to the nitty gritty here. How many of you guys want to see me filter some water? And I'll just get out of the screen share right now so you guys can see this. Anybody? Yes, some of you guys want me to do this. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. So I'm gonna get back over here and I'm gonna show you just how easy it is to use this filter. Now this filter works with gravity. You don't need any batteries, you don't need any electricity. You just take this dirty water. Now because sometimes the rivers and stuff, they're flowing pretty good. And I want you to see that water, you know, that's some nasty old stuff. And in just a minute, I'm gonna drink some of that water, which is super crazy, right? So all you do to use this filter is you take this filter and you remove this white cap and then you drop it down and you start filtering water. That's how you turn it on. You just take the cap off and you drop that down. Now this filter can filter about right around 1 liter of water per minute. You can fill, this is a 5-gallon or a 20-liter bucket up on the top, and you could filter that whole bucket, probably 25, 30 minutes or something like that would be how you would do it. And that's how you get clean water. Now, you can see how dirty that is, right? I'm gonna fill up this little clear glass so that you can see the miracle actually start to happen. Right now, if a family has this, they'll go out in the morning, they'll fill their bucket up from the local creek or the river or the well or something like that. They'll bring that back to their house and then they'll pour it and they'll filter the water. And you're gonna see right before your eyes a miracle happen, because that is the water that comes from this filter. All the bacteria is gone, all the sediment's gone. It is quite impressive. It's crazy. And so you have clean drinking water, right on the spot, boom, just like that. And honestly, a bucket like this would serve a family for a day. And this filter, like I said, we've had these filters in the field. We have another partner that works down in the country of Honduras, and they've been down there since 2008. In Fiji, they've been there since 2008. There are still families right now that got the original filters back in 2008 that still have their filters and they're still working. I'm gonna show you how to clean it in just a second, but first of all, I wanna see how many of you guys, I'm gonna get the chat going down here. Isn't this super cool? How many of you guys wanna see me drink this? I wanna see some people. Anyone? Yes, we've got a yes out there. Just do it. Yes, me. All of us, right? You want to see this because that's really the miracle, right? The miracle is, and I've drinking this water many times, but cheers to you guys. Happy Earth Day. I'm going to drink this dirty, nasty water that's now beautiful. It's as easy as that. That is, and it just tastes like water. It's just water, you know, it removes everything. It's just like a miracle. And so people's lives can get changed. You can go into a village, you can give them one of these filters. In a couple hours, everybody in the village has clean drinking water. And right then, immediately, their life starts changing. And they'll many of them, 36% of the families, or sometimes half of the families will have frequent cases of diarrhea. And then just like that, you go back 2 weeks later, it's all gone. That happens all around the world with all kinds of nonprofits in over 90 countries around the world. It is truly amazing. Now, the cool thing about this filter is that you can clean it for long-term use. So I'm going to show you, all you have to do to turn it off is you take this filter and you put the cap back on and you hang it up. And that's how you turn the filter off, right? But I want to show you right here. I'm going to get a little bit of water just so I can clean the filter. And this is my glass. I used this just a minute ago, okay? So I'm going to show you how we clean it. Every filter comes with one of these things that I'm holding in my hand right now. Anyone know what this is? Have you seen these before? Who wants to type in, what is this thing that I'm holding in my hands right now? I'll give you a little hint. Yeah, it's a shot. It's a syringe, right? When I was a kid, I did not like these. I remember one time I went to the doctor's office and I had to get a shot for something. Didn't really like shots that much. I don't mind them now. They don't really hurt. And it didn't really hurt when I was a little kid either. I was afraid of it, but I was afraid it would, but it really didn't. So if you're a kid watching right now and you go to the doctor, don't worry. The doctors and nurses will take really good care of you. But this one doesn't have a needle on it. This just has the tip on it. And what we do is we take clean water and we kind of put this down in some clean water, and then we draw the clean water up just like this, and we put that inside this syringe, and then we're gonna take a filter like this. Now, I've got another filter just so I can show you what that looks like, and we're gonna actually take the syringe and we're gonna put it on the tip, and then we're gonna push that water through backwards, and then it's gonna actually clean the filter. And so I'm gonna show you, this is a filter that I was using yesterday, and it's got some gook in it, right? All that stuff that I just drank, it took all that stuff out. So I'm gonna fill up this syringe right here. Now, I wanna shoot it into this glass over here, okay? So I'm gonna take this filter and I'm gonna shoot it into the glass, and we're just gonna pour it in there. Oh. That is so nasty. So I'm gonna do it one more time just so I can get you a little bit more water. Oh. Okay. That's what came out of that filter. Is that not gross? So that filter gets rid of everything. And I want you to think about this, okay? I probably ran about maybe a third of that bucket through that filter, and it caught all this stuff, right? That's what I would have drank. I would have drank this right here. This thing's full of all kinds of bacteria that could kill me, really. It totally could. And it's so gross. And so this filter is literally a miracle. You can see why people around the world call this water filter the miracle filter, because it is truly amazing. So you can take that water that's right up there, and you can get that water. That's totally good to drink. I take these with me everywhere I go around the world. I always have a water filter with me. I travel with one everywhere I go. I keep one in my emergency kit at my house, because if my water ever goes out in San Diego, which by the way, not that long ago, in the little town next to where I live, there's a town called, a little city called Poway. And Poway lost their water for a week. The restaurants were closed, all kinds of stuff was closed, and that's right next to me. And I had a water filter, so I was good to go. And you guys can be too. But this filter is just a game changer, and it's really awesome at what we can do. So I want to just take a second. First of all, if there's any questions, I guess I can look back up here and see if you guys had any questions about anything along the way. I see some of the students that I've done this assembly before for some of the students. And so some of them are on this call right now, which is like super cool. But if you guys have any questions along the way, you can ask me. I'll give you my email address too. I would love to hear from you. My email is Darrell, Darrel, @Sawyer.com. And if you've got a question that comes up later, I'd be happy to answer that for you. Somebody put on here, how long do the filters last? Well, we don't know exactly how long they last because we've only had them since 2008. But what I can tell you right now is they last that long because we have families that we've actually visited within the last year or so that have had their filters since 2008. So we like to say 10 plus years. We don't know. The inside of the filter, it's meant to last. And so those families that have their filters are still thriving and they're still healthy. And we got to go visit them. One of our nonprofits did and follow up with them. So do you have any products that get out heavy metals? So that is a super good question. We actually do. If you go to Amazon, you can type in Sawyer, filters, and you'll see a bunch of different ones. You're going to see a red bottle, and inside that red bottle, it's called the Sawyer S3. It's the Sawyer Select S3. If you go to look at that bottle, it's a personal water bottle that you can carry around with you, and it's actually got this high-tech foam kind of on the inside. And what you do is you fill the bottle up and you squeeze the foam. It's like a silicone bottle, and then the foam actually takes out all the metals, and then you squeeze it through a filter like this to get all the bacteria out. So it's like a 1-2 punch kind of thing, and it gets rid of all that stuff. We have some more questions, really good ones. Does it separate water from apple juice? That's a good one. No. Apple juice is that has all kinds of dissolved solids. We take out the solids, we don't take out the dissolved stuff. And so things like apple juice or tea or things like that, it does not separate those things out. Another question is, yep, I see Sawyer.com/select. If you go there, that's where you can find those water bottles. And again, you can find them, you can learn about them on the Sawyer website. You can go to Amazon, you can go to REI and all kinds of different places that carry the Sawyer products. And so you can get one of those. How much does it cost to give a filter to a family? So, the nonprofits have a lot of programs that they have to give clean drinking water to a family. But the filters are actually pretty inexpensive when it comes down to that. I'll tell you what you can do is you can check on the Sawyer website. If you go to international.sawyer.com, maybe Travis or Andrew can type that in the links just so you guys can remember it in the chat box, international.sawyer.com. And you're going to be able to find a list of our nonprofits that provide these filters, different places around the world. So they're very inexpensive, less than $25 just for the filter part of it. There's buckets and things like that people have to buy. But for our nonprofits, the most that our nonprofits ever pay is $20, somewhere around there. But there's programs and everything that goes along with it, right? Because you got to take them to the people and buckets and those kind of things. So very inexpensive, but it's a great kind of a thing. And again, depending on how far people have to go to bring the clean water to places like that, there's some more expenses to that, but it's very inexpensive to give a family clean drinking water. I would say on average, maybe $50 or so provides clean drinking water for a family for life, somewhere around there. And some are a little bit different, but it's somewhere like that. So how much water can you filter before you have to clean it? Good question. We like to tell people to clean the filter after they filter each bucket. And the reason why we like to tell people that is we tell them clean it after each bucket or before they go to bed, because we don't want dirt to dry inside the filter. And most importantly, we want people to develop the habit of cleaning their filter on a regular basis. So that is why we tell them to clean it after every single bucket, so that they'll get the good habit of cleaning. Because if they use their filter and they clean their filter on a daily basis, then they're actually going to be able to use their filter for years and years and years. So it's really awesome. So yeah, so here's a question. Can you use your filter to drink from the swimming pool in case the water shuts off? If that becomes a water source, if you have a swimming pool, you're gonna probably want the chlorine to dissipate a little bit, which it does naturally. So that's why you have to retreat your swimming pool with chlorine. But the water from your swimming pool, once the chlorine dissipates, just with some time, could totally be a water source. So it would almost be like a well for you. Now, how do you make the holes on the filter so small? With a machine of some sort, some kind of nano machine. I haven't seen that machine that makes, it's the little fibers that have little holes in them. It is very, very, very high-tech machinery that produces the fibers in this filter. And the Sawyer filters are unique because our fibers are actually much thicker than the other fibers that are out there in the world with different filters. So our filters are way more robust, where you can backflush them and use them for a long time. But there's some really fancy machine out there that makes the little holes in the fibers, and that's how it happens. So how did Sawyer filters get their name? Where did Sawyer come from? So, well, a little known thing that Sawyer, actually the owner of Sawyer, their favorite character is Tom Sawyer. If you've read any of those books, Tom Sawyer. He's an outdoor adventure kid, you know, in the book that we read. And so that's how Sawyer got its name. We are an outdoor company on a mission to change the world. Okay, so you guys, you had great questions. There's a bunch of things on here. If you have some more questions that you want to send me via email, I would invite you guys to do that. But I hope that you guys have enjoyed your time on the webinar, and most importantly, I want to say this to all the kids out there. You know, I used to think, what could I do? What could I do in the world? I wanted to make a difference. If I was to ask you guys, does anybody want to make a difference in the world? Everyone would raise their hands. You want to do it, but I wasn't sure that I could do it. You know, what was it that I could figure out or be a part of? And this is just one of the many things that you can do around the world. But I want to encourage you, if you're in school right now and you're thinking about what can you do, think big. Think about, and sometimes you can think big, but then sometimes you can even do small stuff, right? Right in the middle of COVID-19 right now and coronavirus and all that kind of stuff, you could be kind to someone. You could bake your neighbor cookies. You could do something kind for somebody in that way that would be super impactful to them, and they would appreciate it and love it so much. But there's things like this where you could actually go on our website, look for one of our clean drinking water partners, and you could find a place around the world that you've fallen in love with, or that maybe you're doing a school report on right now, something like that. And you can contact one of those nonprofits. We call them NGOs. They're non-government organizations, but nonprofits, the same thing. You can contact them and get involved with what they're doing. They're all using Sawyer filters around the world. They're all doing an amazing job. And you can be a part. Maybe you're going to have a little fundraiser or something like that, or your school can have a fundraiser, something like that, that can go to benefit one of these organizations. That's a great way to do it. And you can know that you are making a tangible difference. Somebody on the other side of the world is going to get one of these filters, and it is going to change their life. And how many people get to change people's lives like this? Well, we all can. So I want to encourage you to do that and make a real difference and an impact in the world. I want to thank you guys for tuning in, and thanks for being world changers. Happy Earth Day. I hope you guys have a great rest of the day, and I hope this is maybe a catalyst for what's going to come out of your life in the future. Please share those stories with us so that we could tell them and share them around the world. You guys take care.